If you find yourself yelling at your kids too often, there are only two things that you need to do to stop that from happening. Hi, I'm Adam. I'm a home educating dad who is also home educated, and I'm going to show you the two absolutely foolproof strategies that you need to use to stop yourself from yelling at your kids. If this is interesting to you, I'd really appreciate it if you like the video, and if you want to subscribe, you can do that too. When we yell, it's because our brain has reached its capacity. It can't handle any more stress. So when your child's tugging at your leg or refuses to put their jacket on or spills something all over the floor when you've just cleaned it, whatever it is, it tends to be a fairly smaller thing that might not bother us under other circumstances. But that's because our brain's hit its capacity. You could think of it like a bucket. Our brain has a certain capacity for stress, and when it reaches that point, what spills over the top is yelling. So the first thing that we need to do if we want to stop ourselves from yelling is make sure that we don't hit capacity. It often looks like what's happening is the thing that's actually stressing us out. But our brain is also dealing with a lot of other things all the time under the surface that are much more important for the brain. Things like our vision or our balance. If our vision isn't great or our balance isn't great, that's much more stressful for the brain. So our bucket is already quite full, leaving only a little bit of capacity left for what's happening with your kids. And when they spill that thing on the floor or refuse to put their jacket on or whatever it is, that fills that last remaining bit of the bucket, and then you end up yelling. So the first thing that we need to do to stop ourselves from yelling is empty out that bucket and free up some capacity so that you don't hit your capacity so quickly. So stick around, because in a moment I'm going to show you an exercise that you can do to quickly empty out that bucket and free up some capacity for yourself. The second thing that we need to be able to do to stop ourselves from yelling is we need to actually be able to stop ourselves from yelling. We need to be able to put our brakes on when we hit our capacity, because sometimes parenting is stressful. So at some point we are going to hit our capacity, and the difference between yelling and not yelling comes down to one part of the brain. It's a part of the brain right at the front that's called our prefrontal cortex. Its job is self-control and regulating your behavior. And if that part of your brain isn't working well, stopping yourself from yelling is going to be much, much harder. So I'm going to show you an exercise in a moment to help you train that part of your brain. These are really the only two things that you need to be able to do. You need to lower stress so that you don't hit your capacity. And then we also need to train that front part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, so that even when you do hit capacity, which is likely to happen from time to time, you have the wherewithal to be able to stop yourself from yelling. These are the two things that I did when I found myself yelling at my son way too often. So here are the two exercises. The first one's going to help you reduce your capacity. The second one's going to help train that front of the brain. Now, when we get stressed, one of the things that happens is we get tense. So we're going to check how tense you are and see if we can make a difference to that. So what I want you to do is I want you to stand comfortably, put your arms out in front of you, and then I just want you to rotate around to your left and to your right. Do it a couple of times if you want. Just check and see how far you can go. All you're going to do is you're going to bounce from your knees or from your heels, and at the same time you're going to breathe slowly and hum as you exhale. Okay, so take a nice breath in and then bounce and hum. And just take a nice long time to exhale. Do that 2 or 3 times, and then once you've done that, go ahead and recheck and see, can you go further? And does it feel more relaxed? If it did, we just emptied that stress bucket. So this is something that you can practice through your day and through your week to help keep your stress low and to empty that threat bucket when you start to feel like your temperature is rising. The second exercise that we're going to do is for that front part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, that deals with stopping unwanted behavior. The Stroop effect is when you see one colour written in a different colour. For instance, the word red written in the colour blue. Habitually, you'll want to say the word, but instead I want you to say the colour of the ink. And in doing this, we'll be training that part of the brain to stop unwanted behaviour, just like yelling. Now, there are a couple of apps that you can download for iPhone and Android to do this. I'll put links in the description below. Use those apps to train that front part of the brain. Practicing these two things aren't going to make you a Zen master overnight. Training your brain can be easy, but it can also take some time. If you want to train your brain to be a more patient parent, I have a free brain-based guide to being patient that you can download. I'll put a link in the description below for you. If you've gotten some value out of this video, please give me a like. Remember to subscribe if you haven't done that already, and I'll see you in the next video.